First of all, just want to welcome you all to day 4 of International Education Week and to our International Education Week webinar series that we've been hosting every day this week. Today, we are going to be talking with regards to internships in Asia, Africa, and Latin America to our environmental and animal sciences fields. So welcome to the webinar today. We just have a half hour. We'll probably be talking for about 20 minutes, and then we've got some time at the end for questions. If you think of questions along the way, please pop those into the chat function, and we'll pick those up at the end. And also, we'll be probably talking pretty fast. We've got a lot to cover in this time. If there's anything that you missed, we will be sending out the recording of this webinar at the end, so you can catch up again then, or feel free to share it with anyone else. So without further ado, let's just make a start. I'd like to introduce you to the team that's working on International Education Week this week. Myself, Harvick Jones, everyone knows me as H, and I am the voice on the call right now. I am the founder and director of Kaya Responsible Travel. Also working on the team this week is Laura Smith. You won't hear from Laura today, but if you joined us on some of the earlier webinars this week, you may have heard her. Today joining us will be Emily Tong, our program coordinator, who you'll hear from in just a minute, and Emma Powers, our program assistant, who is making sure that all the tech is working and that everything is going smoothly here today. So that's the team that's working on this week. And just a little bit of an introduction to Kaya and what we do. So we are a responsible travel and education abroad organization with a focus on community and environmental development. We were established in 2009, and we have been sending students away for coming on 12 years at this point. Hundreds of students in that time all over the world on our projects. We have a mission to promote sustainable social, environmental, and economic development, empower communities, and cultivate educated, compassionate global citizens through our responsible travel programs. And I always like to share this. We're very proud of the awards that we've won over the years, but in particular, we're very proud of being nominated and winning the Best Volunteer Organization Award a number of times, twice gold, 3 times silver. I think we have a couple of bronzes in there between 2013 and now. And we're really proud of that. I think it reflects on our ethical engagements, both community engagements and in the ethical areas involved around environment and wildlife in particular, and also the support that we provide our participants on all of our programs. Just a little bit more about how we do that. We are specialists in experiential programs and cultural immersion in non-traditional destinations, and we do that through our internship placements. Most recently, while travel has been restricted, through our virtual online internships, our study and service options, where we combine study in traditional universities with placements in organizations that we're working with, and also our volunteer service learning programs, which give the option for individuals and groups to engage in service programs. That's very popular, especially for alternative breaks, for social groups, for student groups, and that kind of stuff as well. And where in the world do we do this? So as you can see by the map here, we work all over the world, but especially in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, and those are our focal areas. From an environmental perspective, especially, we work in some way out locations where there are some big environmental issues and concerns being addressed as well. So especially in some of these areas that you may not think of as developing areas necessarily, like Australia and New Zealand, we're still involved with a number of environmental programs in this region. So with that, what I'm going to do is hand you over to Emily, who's going to talk just a little bit more about this specific field of environment and wildlife. So over to Emily.
Great, thanks H. So much can go under environmental and animal sciences. Many of these fields bleed into another. And if you're interested in environmental or conservation sciences, then an international internship is a great way to try out a concentration and gain practical experience. On one side of the spectrum, we look at the macro, such as ecological and environmental conservation, energy use, and climate change. And then on the other side, we look at the more micro and individual species, such as animal rehabilitation, veterinary work, and habitat conservation. So there really is a lot to explore. And at Kaya, we have more than 250 projects in over 30 countries. As with all of our programs, you will be getting involved with projects that promote sustainability, primarily environmentally, but sometimes politically, economically, and socially too, such as our Elephant and Community Water Access Project in Namibia, where they're working on solutions that help both the community and the elephants. So let's take a closer look at some of the sectors in environmental sustainability. We have wildlife protection and rescue rehabilitation, and that's a sector with a huge need for many of our locations. Due to environmental impacts and habitat loss, animals find themselves in need of additional care. So you could help these animals get back on their feet and reintroduced to the wild. Then we have ecology, zoology, and wildlife conservation research, and that's the key to implementing action or policy and protecting habitat and animals. You could monitor turtles or collect data on elephant movements that will lead to future studies. Then we have veterinary and pre-veterinary work. It can span anything from cats and dogs to monkeys, elephants, and lions. And you can develop your skills of diagnosing, treating, and preserving animals in their natural habitats. With marine habitat conservation, you could do hands-on work through renovation of coral reefs and cleaning up habitat, gather field data to improve conservation efforts, or work on outreach and education in the local community. And similarly, marine wildlife conservation work could be protection of habitats and nest sites, collecting field data such as wildlife behavior monitoring, or rehabilitating individual animals. With environmental conservation and ecology, you could collect data on habitats, resource use, and human impacts in locations such as the Amazon rainforest, African savannas, and the Australian bush. And climate change plays a part in most of what we discussed already, and many organizations are working on research and sustainable practices and policy. And with that in mind, you could work in sustainable energy and urban greening to help combat climate change impact. And last but not least, for environmental education and community outreach, it is just as important in the conservation efforts to share information with the local community and future generations. If you are also interested in education or marketing, this could be a great area for you. So for environmental and animal science students, an international internship, whether in person or virtual, is a great way to gain exposure to environmental and conservation efforts in a global location. By seeing day-to-day operations, you will be able to find what direction you will want to delve deeper into. We only place students in projects where you can make an impact and you're needed and wanted as an intern. And now more than ever during this time when many of our host organizations are strapped for resources and businesses are adapting to shifting capacity, and while animals and the environment can't be put on pause during COVID, your contribution to the project will make a real difference. And you'll learn about the country and culture, develop relationships with colleagues and peers from the host country, and grow your professional network, which is super important as you go forward with your career. You'll also experience different cultural approaches to environmental issues. And for many locations, environmental and animal conservation is also cultural conservation. And as the world is getting more interconnected, the ability to bridge cultures is even more important. And this international work experience tackling a real problem in the world will really help you stand out on your resume and pique the interest of future employers. And if you're joining a virtual internship, you'll develop remote work skills, which are really different from taking online classes like you're probably doing now. And as you can imagine, these skills are increasingly important in the workplace today. So what does an actual placement look like? Let's first talk about our in-person placements. So at Kaya, you'll work with one of our placement advisors who will match you to an organization and project that aligns with your academic, professional, and personal interests. And by working with you one-on-one, we are able to place you with a project that will be challenging and meaningful. Your project will be anywhere between 4 and 12 weeks and can be longer if requested, or depending on your schedule, and your school's requirements for hours, we can definitely work with those. In each of our locations, we have a local site team who will welcome you on arrival and provide your cultural orientation and support you throughout your time in country. You'll also have a project supervisor at your host organization to support you in your academic needs. And throughout the program, you'll participate in reflections, and at the end, you'll complete a re-entry toolkit to help you process the experience and learn how to leverage it on your resume and future job interviews. Our accommodation style will vary based on location. It might be a volunteer house or homestay or research stations, or even camping on expeditions into remote areas. But all accommodations are safe and vetted by Kaya. And each in-person program has different dates, deadlines, and costs depending on the location and project. You can search programs and find the program-specific details on our website. And again, our advisors can work with you to find a match within your budget. So with that, let's take a look at some specific placement examples. And again, these are just a few of them. We have so many. So first we have Sarah, who was considering becoming a wildlife veterinarian. So she signed up for 2 projects in Ecuador, rescuing turtles on the coast and working at a rescue center in the rainforest. Her greatest achievement was capturing a green sea turtle, taking its measurements and tagging it for research. And other highlights included seeing over 200 sea turtle eggs buried in the sand, helping with the release of a rehabilitated sloth, and the time she spent in the rainforest. This experience helped Sarah confirm her interest in the field. Next, we have Harriet. Harriet came to us with a love for animals, and she knew she would like to be a vet in the future. So she was so excited to join the pre-veterinary internship in South Africa. There she had the chance to treat, feed, and take care of a variety of animals, both wild and domesticated. And her role also involved ecosystem support and biodiversity preservation. And then we have Molly from the US, who interned on a climate change in action project in Vietnam. She worked with the local team to develop proposals by conducting needs assessments and baseline surveys with the local community and engaging with climate change partners, which helped her build her network of climate change activists and experts. Molly told us it was great to have a taste of the influence and support the project provides to small coastal communities in Vietnam, which are already struggling with sea level rise as a result of climate change. So climate change programs like this are ideal for anyone interested in learning more about environmental science and sustainability issues in action. So I know we're talking a lot about traveling in a strange time, so let's talk about what it looks like to travel during COVID-19. Kaya anticipates we will be able to responsibly reopen a number of locations in 2021, which will be done based on careful consideration and planning. We want to make sure the experience is safe and impactful for both you and the local community. And during this time, we want you to be able to make future plans without risk. So you can speak with a Kaya placement advisor to explore options. And we also aren't requiring full payment until we can confirm travel is possible in your preferred location. We do currently have one option open for this winter, which is our wildlife conservation at the rescue center in the Ecuadorian Amazon. With this remote site, we have participants quarantine in the first 10 days while they learn about projects and take cultural workshops before joining the project team caring for animals like adorable capybaras rescued from trafficking in the Amazon. There have been a huge surge in the number of rescued animals during the pandemic, which have led to even greater needs. At this project, you would work alongside veterinarians to feed, maintain clean and stimulating environments, and carry out important preparation work for animals that can be released. We have monthly start dates for this project from December and is open to everyone. The last thing we want is for intercultural experiences and conservation efforts to come to a halt. So in the meantime, we are also offering virtual internships, which might be a good fit for you if you aren't ready or able to travel yet. So with this, I will pass it back to H, who will tell you more.
Awesome, thank you, Emily. Okay, guys, so yeah, just on top of what Emily was sharing with you about our in-person internships, I want to talk to you a little bit more about what our virtual internships look like. If traveling is not an option for you right now, if you're looking for something maybe in spring, or if your school is not allowing travel at the moment, or even if you're not quite sure about traveling and want to look at virtual as a way into this field. So we have options in 5 locations that we're working with. And what we're doing is we're actually working with the organizations that we work with regularly. So these are placements that we would typically be able to go to in person. And the work that you would then be carrying out with the organization, instead of it being, hands-on and in person on the ground, is actually the type of work that you can do online and remotely. So this might look like, from an environmental project perspective, conducting online research, producing reports, processing data, maybe developing communication materials while learning all about the topic areas. And all of this work is still directly contributing and advancing the mission of the program that you're working on, in exactly the same way as it would be as if you were on the ground. Our placements are a cohort style within the country, so everybody who signs up to do both social and environmental programs within the same country would be getting together as we do cultural workshops and some other aspects, and then individually be placed on their specific project. We can either even have a few people on the say working within the same organization, but maybe working in different areas of expertise or on project focuses, for example. And these again are, as I say, contributing towards the project mission in the same way, and working under that site supervisor. So the project supervisor works one-on-one with all of our interns, and then additional to that, our site team at the country location is then carrying out the regular cultural workshops. These have been everybody loves these. They're really fun and immersive. The cultural workshops dive into relevant topics. So, for example, we look at the food of the country and have cooking classes. We look at the modern culture of the country and look at the music that's listened to there, or the dance. So we even have some dance classes and that kind of stuff. And we do a different topic each week or bi-weekly, depending on which program you're on, and allows you to really connect with the country's culture as well as the work that you're doing on your specific project, to get that international cultural perspective, which contributes greatly, again, to thinking about the challenges in the cultural context on your project. Additional to that, we actually have what we call buddy chats with local students from the local area. Many of these students are actually getting credit for doing that cultural exchange with us as international students. And with that, they're more sort of personal and with topics such as looking at, what do relationships look like? What does dating look like for you guys? How do, and exchanging some of those ideas, talking through it. It might be politics, it might be the hot topic of the day. But doing that way in the same way as you might connect locally with people when you're on the ground, being able to do that in an online environment. Similarly to regular internships, we have the reflection sessions that continue, so we can really process some of what we're learning. The re-entry toolkit to allow us to process those experiences for our resumes. We also have an additional tool that we call GlobeSmart, which is learning a lot about what your working style looks like in comparison to the working style of the local culture that you're going to be with, which is always very important. A lot of the focus within the projects is engaging local communities in various environmental approaches, and having that understanding is a really vital part, as Emily said before, to ensuring that conservation and environmental efforts actually are continued sustainably and locally. And then the commitment for the virtual internships, unlike the regular ones, which are ongoing and you can go to any time of year and be flexible with the time, the virtual internships have set start dates. We have fall and spring semester options, which run for 13 weeks, and then we have summer options, which run for 8 weeks. The number of hours that you do each week can vary from 5 to 30 or more or less, depending on what your needs are. In the semester, a lot of people are doing the internships alongside their regular classes, so you might do less hours per week. In the summer, it's a little bit more condensed and we pack a lot more in to a shorter amount of time. If you have requirements to get credit of hours, then we will work with that to ensure that that can be fulfilled. Let me get you an example of something that somebody did recently on this, which is Zaya, a student that was recently with us on a virtual internship in Ecuador this last summer. And Zaya was working within a project which was a research-orientated internship with an organization that was using agave as the premise of it basically is that the agave is actually very good for avoiding subsidence, and from an environmental perspective is actually one of the indigenous plants that is very important in that area, and how the focus on agave can be used to then ensure some aspects of local income, fair trade, and other sort of socio impacts of an environmental initiative in that way. It's a really fascinating project. And she worked on establishing objectives, hypotheses, and research methods on types of agave collection and breeding methods in that case. And there's a number of really great projects in that way. There's a current one that we're doing in Ecuador, for example, as well, which are looking at how they use public spaces in parks and developing plans for urban greening in that way. So the specifics of the virtual internships, unlike, again, the regular internships, they just have one single price, whether you do this for semester or summer options. So that's $12.85 for the program. There are a couple of additional options you can add on. Very popular are the language classes, especially Spanish within Ecuador and French and Arabic that are available in Morocco. And also many people get credit from their home institution, and we definitely work with you to get the paperwork done on that. If you can't get credit from your home institution and you're looking to get transfer credit, again, for an extra fee, we can organize that with our School of Record here in the US to enable that. The other thing, as I mentioned previously, a lot of our virtual interns are hoping to be able to travel in person once that becomes possible, or even if they don't intend to, oftentimes they get involved in a virtual internship and then become inspired and really, really want to go afterwards as well. So what we're doing to try and help our virtual participants be able to travel the host country is that anyone participating in a virtual program gets future program discounts on going in person, and that can be anything from $100 to $700, depending if you go to the same place or somewhere different and all of that kind of stuff. So we would work with you on that. And we have a number of our virtual interns who are now planning to do in-person, sort of follow-up in person in the summer or when they're able to travel, which is great. As you can see here, we have a couple of start dates in spring coming up, a late January and an early February start for spring. And then in summer, we will have a May and a June start that you can join us on as well. So just to round off, a couple of quotes from some recent participants that traveled onto some of our programs. As you can see here, Taylor was doing an environmental sustainability program in Belize. He told us that I learned so much about environmentalism in general and about Belize environment and culture and people and history. I felt fulfilled that I picked the correct degree in Korea. It refined my environmental knowledge and reminded me of my career passion. And Sarah, who was working on a wildlife rescue sanctuary in Zimbabwe, told us that I believe I will have my foot in the door when it comes to pre-vet experience and even research and conservation. I'm thrilled to have this on my resume, and I'm sure it will come across that I learned a lot while I was in Zimbabwe when I'm being interviewed for jobs. So both of these students really felt that they gained a lot from being able to participate. So if you are interested in doing an internship, whether it be an in-person or virtual one, what are your next steps? I always recommend to people, one of the first options is to go on our website, kayavolunteer.com, and have a browse around, see what's there. You can click on the environmental options, the wildlife options, anything else if you have a different focus, and see the kind of programs that are available, see what sort of what piques your interest. And then we always encourage everyone to have a personal call with one of our placements advising team. Our placement team are all very well traveled. You see here, Tom and Jess are our two main placement advisors. Tom actually was spent a month out in the Peruvian Amazon very recently, and Jess actually lived in South Africa working on a number of our environmental projects over there over the years. So again, our teams have a lot of experience that they can share with you as you speak to them, and they can give you an idea of the types that are available and match your needs and your skills and what you're looking for with a specific project that best matches that up. And once we have that, what we always encourage you to do is to make sure that you speak to either your study abroad office, your department advisor, or your careers center. It's different for different schools, but reach out to those individuals, especially if you're looking to get credit from your home institution for carrying this out. If, again, as I mentioned, your school does not offer that as an option and you're looking to get some transfer credits, we still recommend that you speak to all the same people, but then come and speak to us if you're looking to get those transfer credits, and we can make that happen for you as well. So that was everything that we're going to share with you today. We've got about 5 minutes to answer any questions. So if you have any questions, please do drop those into the chat function for us. I'm seeing we have a couple of people here.
Yeah, it looks like we have one question. Is transfer credit an option add-on for all internships or just for virtual?
Nope, that is for all of them, absolutely. And again, we always work with you and work with your study abroad office to work out how that works for your particular institution, because it can always be different. But the transfer credits come with any one of our placements, and just require a couple of extra reflections and reports to be submitted to us as part of that, and we can give you more details for that for sure, if you are interested in that one. We find most of the time that home institution credit is preferred by most people, but when that's not available, this is a really great option. Yeah. Another question that someone asked us earlier this week was a language perspective. I don't think this will come as a great surprise within environmental field, but typically we are working in English. Certainly if you're going to certain areas like, Ecuador or Latin America in general, having Spanish is always a bonus, but actually is definitely not required in pretty much any of our environmental programs. We tend to operate in English. When you work across Asia and Africa, the Asian countries tend to use English as their sort of default language, because the Asian countries speak so many different individual languages. They tend to use English as a default, especially in the environmental field. And again, similar thing in the African continent where English is the primary. So with that, there's not necessarily a language requirement. However, certainly from the times that I've spent on projects, I've come away learning Zulu, I've come away learning Vietnamese, I've come away learning different languages along the way from the people I work alongside. So that's something as well, if people are worried about that. Any other questions that we have on here? If any of you think of any other questions after the event, then please drop us an email, info@kayavolunteer.com, and we can answer those anytime. We are always very keen to chat to people about options in this field. Obviously, we can share with you everything that is an option as far as Kaya goes, but also if this is just an interest area that you're starting to explore, then feel free to connect with us so that we can help direct you in the right way. We looked at the benefits today, but there are some really great benefits of having this this on your CV. And we do speak to a lot of people who tell us that once they actually get involved in a project, it opens their eyes to elements that they didn't even know existed, and actually helps direct them on which specific classes they take going forward, as it takes them in the direction of what they get inspired from doing their projects. So we really encourage you to do this at any point in your degree, or at the end, if you're finished your degree and you're actually looking to get that before you progress into a work environment as well. So thank you everyone for attending today. Thank you very much for coming online and spending a half hour with us. We really appreciate it. As I say, we'll send you the link to this webinar, and if you have any questions at all, please do connect with us. In the meantime, I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and we hope that we will engage with you soon and see you on some of our projects. So thank you.